We'll go ahead and begin our agenda meeting. Again, this is the agenda meeting. We welcome all those who are here today to listen to the varied reports from city staff members. There is limited discussion and no action taken on items to be presented today, but we certainly welcome each of you and your attendance and your interest in your city government. So we're going to begin with the city manager. Will be reviewing those action items. Mr. Burrough.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Your first item is under your agenda section, consent agenda section. It's Resolution R23-122, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a T-Mobile hometown grant, and our Assistant City Engineer, Mike Hill, will present.
Yes, this grant is to add a kayak canoe launch at the end of our existing Greenway Trail. It will be just north of the Martin Luther King Expressway past TV Hill. And this grant is something that we can apply for quarterly, so we can see how our grant does and we can tweak it each quarter. And this is just to file it and give us the permission to accept it if so granted.
Any questions to Mike? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. This grant, Mr. Mike, any kind of match breakdown for it?
No match on this grant.
Okay, thank you.
Director Garcia?
What is the amount you're applying for?
I'm still working on the cost estimate, but it's going to be somewhere around $29,000.
Great, thank you.
We are limited to a $50,000 on this particular grant.
Mike, is there you mentioned that you can apply quarterly. Is there like a project limitation ceiling on that? As like you said, it's $29,000 this time. Can you?
Well, as we
can go up to 50.
As we refine it, this is a little different on some of the grants. They want a full set of plans.
Okay.
And didn't really realize that till I started getting into the grant. So I'm busy trying to do some details and flesh out the whole grant. So if we come back next time, the numbers may change a little bit as we refine the plans and the cost estimate.
Very good. Any further questions of Mike? Thank you.
Okay.
Next item is consider Resolution R23-123, a resolution awarding a contract to Denali Water Solutions, LLC for sludge removal at Ouachita and Lakeside water treatment plants, and our Utilities Director, Monty Ledbetter, is here to discuss the item.
Thank you, Mr. Burris. This first item is a term contract for sludge removal from our backwash ponds at both our Lakeside and our Ouachita water treatment plant for Denali Water Solutions. This is for 4 12-month terms upon mutual consent by both parties. We anticipate having to remove around 800,000 gallons of waste from our Lakeside water treatment plant and around 1.2 million gallons of sludge from our Ouachita water treatment plant over this period of this remainder of this year. And that's typically what we try to do every year, and this is necessary to meet our requirements through ADEQ. So do you have any questions on that?
Any questions of directors? Director Garcia?
Is this our current?
Yes, ma'am. This is the current one we do have contract with.
So it's more renewal. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Next, we have Resolution R23-124, a resolution awarding a bid to Core and Main LP and to Ferguson Enterprises, LLC, who are doing business as Ferguson Waterworks for the purchase of certain brass fittings for the City of Hot Springs Utilities Department. And again, Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes, sir. This is a term contract to Core and Main and to Ferguson Waterworks. This contract will allow for 4 12-month extensions as well upon mutual consent of both parties. Brass fittings, as you know, are used to repair water lines, service lines, mains on a daily basis for us. So we put out this bid and we had 2 responses. Core and Main was the low bidder on items 1 through 43.8, and Ferguson was the low bidder on 44.1 through 44.6. And so we're recommending awarding and splitting this. We normally don't do that, but we recommend doing that since that was the way the low bids came in. And that's how we're recommending it this time. So we award it to both.
Any questions of Monty on this item? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Monty, you said that there were 4 12-month terms, mutual contention. Would those terms be able to come up for review at the end of each 12 months?
At the end of budget years, those are subject to budget approval by this board.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that. I failed to mention that.
Next, we have Resolution R23-125, a resolution approving an agreement that accelerates the virtual demand metered area project by modifying the contract between the City of Hot Springs and Pure Technologies US Inc., which are a brand of Xylem Incorporated, approved in Resolution number 9767. And again, Mr. Ledbetter.
I'm extremely excited about this project and the results of this project. Water loss is a big issue throughout all cities in the United States and everywhere. And it's been very difficult to manage that and figure out how to manage that. And for the last couple of years, we've been installing inline meters around the city to measure the amount that goes through that main, through that particular area of town. We compare that reading with the readings that are in that area through the houses and through the businesses that are in that area, because we get those readings, as you know, every night comes in on our system. So we can compare those two readings. So we've isolated these areas and we've figured out that we can install these meters, and through this new technology, through this Pure Technology, through Xylem is the mother company of all of it, we're able to track that and put a real number with that for the first time. So we're real excited about that. This is a great opportunity to reduce our water loss, and we find leaks weekly with this system. So we're going to try to speed this up a little bit. We've done a really good job of getting these things done for the first 2 years, and now I'd like to, years 3, 4, and 5, kind of speed this up a little bit and get these meters purchased. They're not getting any cheaper, so we'd like to go ahead and get them purchased and get them in place and get them working for us.
Any questions of Monty on this item?
So Monty, while the tangible goods may be purchased all at once, the services will continue for the next 2 years under the original
Yes, sir.
term.
It's the way it's spelled out in here. The majority of the cost will be, of course, the meters and those things that we're going to have to purchase, the tapping saddles, those kind of things. But then after that, it's $77,000 for the next 2 years for that. Yes, sir.
Any questions? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R23-126, a resolution awarding a bid to John F. Jenkins Contracting, Inc. and to Coakley Company, Inc. for the purchase of certain aggregates. Mr. Ledbetter.
All right, this is for our aggregate that the city purchases. Every department uses all different kinds of aggregate. So when we put this out, we typically award it to one, but again, this one we would like to award to Jenkins for portions of this that they were low bidder on, and award to Coakley, Kevin Coakley Company, for the portions that they were low bidder on. This again allows for 4 12 months extension upon mutual consent and of course budgetary constraints each year. We use sand, and we use things in the winter months to gain traction on the roads. We use aggregate for a little bit of everything, but a lot of it's used in the utility department on a daily basis. So that's why I'm here presenting this tonight. So with your approvals, we'll move forward with these two as the low bidders for the aggregate. And also on this one, we added, if one can't supply us what we need in an emergency, we can use the other one for that aggregate. So if we get an emergency situation and one of the companies don't have one of the type of gravels that we need, we can we can call the other company and have them provide that for us.
Okay. Director Garcia?
Thank you. I know that Copley is a current contractor. Is the Jenkins Contracting current also?
Jenkins is in this area, and they provide a lot of gravel, and they're doing a lot of work for us in the water for some of our contractors that work in this area. But Kevin Copley has been the supplier for us for our gravel for the last several years. So this is kind of new.
Thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. What was the amount for this bid? Do we know?
It varies from year to year. Ours normally doesn't by itself, the gravel. I want to say it's probably around 100,000 a year. I'd have to go back and look at my budget exactly. But for different departments, I'm not sure what they use. This is priced on a, I think it's by the, this is priced by the ton, so we can purchase it by the ton
So you
as
think
we need it.
you're thinking about 100,000 per year for gravel? What about the aggregates? Or would the gravel be a part of those aggregates?
That's part of it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then if I may, I thought of something backing up to item number 4, Mayor. Can I,
Well,
since it pertains to Mr. Monty, can I ask that question
are we
too?
done discussing this item?
Anything else on the
Any
aggregate?
further question on
Mayor.
resolution R23126?
He had a
Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Monty, this is the second one this afternoon that we've looked at where we're awarding a bid to 2 contractors.
Yes, sir.
In this case, for example, did they each bid on each item in the contract and then
No,
an
sir.
overall bid, or?
They were the lowest bidded items. We're recommending the lowest bids. One of the companies didn't bid on, was it fines, Denny? We use fines in some cases
Okay.
where it's a small product, and one of them did not bid on that. I think it was Ferguson that didn't bid on that. And so that's what we'll be using Kevin for, the Copley company.
Okay.
And then Jenkins was low on everything else.
Okay. And they're okay with splitting up the contract even though they?
Yes, sir, yeah.
It wasn't an all or nothing bid?
We'll award it to both companies through this resolution, the way it's worded, the way Mr. Albright worded it, we can award it to both contractors.
The lowest bid will be our primary contractor, but if we're not able to get that certain size aggregate from that primary, it allows us to go to the next one as a secondary.
Yes, sir.
The terminology that's used is a little misleading. We call it a term contract because it's an annual thing. Essentially, what this does is it locks in the price that they have to sell to us for. It does not lock us into buying from them.
It locks it in for a period of a year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the right to terminate whenever we want to by letter or at the end of the year. If we don't want to renew it and we want to rebid it, we can.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Director Webb, you want to go back to item 4?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. In looking at this project, if approved, would there be some data that could be provided to the board?
Absolutely.
And essentially to the public too, for transparency, to show how much water reduction took place as a result of the project, and then also how many leaks were found and how quickly those leaks were resolved as a result of passing this resolution?
Yes, sir. We can definitely provide you that information. I will tell you that we've been working on water loss since I've been here, and we've used kind of a, not an old-fashioned method, but a hunt and search method for the first several years. And we found, to date, we found 63 of those leaks. And some of those leaks were major. Some of those leaks were a little over 4 million gallons a day. So they were substantial. I know that right now we're averaging around 16 million gallons a day being produced. When you're talking about 4 million gallons a day on a daily basis, that's a lot of water. And we've eliminated that much so far with this contract and then the other one that we had. So, and this one, is a way to monitor it from now on. So when I'm gone, the software's still there, the homepage is still there and the monitors will still be in place. All we have to do is keep them calibrated, keep the software current, and somebody to watch them and make sure that they're getting repaired and fixed as we find them. But
So
it's
in-
great technology. I would love to show you how this works.
So in your opinion, would this project almost expedite that whole process of A, recognizing a leak, and then B, determining what needs to be done to fix the leak?
Well, to be determined, how we fix it is, this helps us pinpoint where those leaks are, because most of our leaks don't surface. We live in real rocky ground around here. And so a lot of the leaks go down storm drains, and we never see them. So this helps us to listen. This system wakes up every night at 4 a.m. and listens for 15 minutes, and then it goes back to sleep. So it does that on every day, 7 days a week. And it listens to the sounds in the system. And it also records, like I mentioned a while ago, the meters record the movement through the lines. So we know how much water went into a certain area of town. And we compare that to the readings of the houses. So the missing water there, some areas may be 50% may be missing. Other areas, only 5% may be missing. So we focus on that area that is 50%. So that's when we deploy all of these listening devices on all the valves out there, and we listen to that area and we find those leaks and we fix those leaks.
And when you say, 4 a.m. listening for 15 minutes in that area, would that include anywhere there is city water going to, whether it be in the city or actually even out in the county if they have a city meter?
It's only the areas that we're focused on. So
Okay.
this is a lift and shift system that I'm talking about listening. Those are devices that go down in the meter boxes, or not meter boxes, but valve boxes and fire hydrants, and they attach to the valve itself, and they're listening and reporting every day. So once we've cleared that area and we don't hear any more sounds, then we move it to the next area and we bounce it around the city. I have about 30 of those right now, so I can do a smaller area of town. But as this grows, I'll buy more and more, and we'll be able to spread them out a little bit. And eventually we'll get to the point where I can leave some in places around the city that can hear those sounds and report to me if there's a issue that's different. It will send us text messages and emails and lets us know that it's kind of a first alert system for us.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
It's like the hunt for Red October.
Mayor, I do want to just say while we're on this item, those are theoretical percentages. We don't have 50% water loss anywhere in the city.
When I said
So
that, I knew
before
I
that
was going
gets
to get in
printed in-
trouble on that. I was just using that as an example.
But before that gets printed in tomorrow's paper, I want to make sure we understand
As
that
soon as I
that's
seen that, I
theoretical.
seen the red tint of Bill's face creep up a little bit.
I appreciate your breakdown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're on item 6.
Next item is Resolution R23-127, a resolution approving the purchase of an NFPA 1901 Sabre fire engine from Pierce Manufacturing, Inc. pursuant to the cooperative purchase agreement through Sourcewell in the amount of $794,565. And Fire Chief Davis is here to present the item.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, directors. I come before you today to recommend that the City of Hot Springs have Pierce Manufacturing fabricate an NFPA 1901 Sabre custom fire engine. The actual delivery of the truck will take place through Siddons Martin Fire Equipment of Conway. They're formerly the EVS dealer for the state of Arkansas. This new proposed pumper will be placed in service about 28 months from the time that it's approved. It will replace a 23-year-old frontline engine, and will also allow us to take a 30-year-old reserve engine out of our inventory. The proposed engine will be assigned to Park Avenue Station. Its design makes it really a capable responder both in urban and suburban areas. It's actually designed to be able to snake its way through those narrow roads in the northern part of the city. The cost of the apparatus is $794,585. It is included in the fire department's 2023 capital budget.
Any questions of Chief Davis? How many personnel will this truck carry?
It will carry 3. Our minimum manning on, our staffing rather, on engines is 3. Our minimum staffing on truck companies is 2.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Your last item under your consent agenda will be R23-128, a resolution awarding a bid to Jack Tyler Engineering, Inc. for the procurement of 3 submersible wastewater pumps for the Gulf Basin Pump Station in the amount of $870,621.47. And our project manager, Todd Pillar, will present that item. Todd?
Thank you and good afternoon. We took bids on June 12th for these large submersible wastewater pumps to go in the Gulf Basin Pump Station. And Jack Tyler Engineering put in a response total, like Bill mentioned, $870,621.47. And they will be flight manufactured, which we have many flight pumps throughout our system. And they're going to be 500 horsepower each. The existing station on Catherine Heights Road pumps about 8 to 12 million gallons a day, and with these 3 new pumps, it'll go up to 32 million gallons a day. And each of the pump and motor assemblies weighs in, each of them, at about 7,000 pounds. These pumps and motors are part of the Gulf Station construction project that we're going to bid on July 17th. And the delivery time being so long, they're 20 weeks after submittals are approved, that we decided to order the pumps directly and save time and the general contractor's markup. So these will be owner furnished motors and pumps and contractor installed with the construction contract. And the purchase order for that amount is all inclusive. It includes the pumps, motors, base elbows, all the factory testing, hydraulic pump test, vibration test, noise test, all the required spare parts, freight to the job site, startup services by the manufacturer, and Arkansas state sales tax. And we brought it to the board, this board meeting in July 5th because their quote is only valid till July 12th. And it will be taken from, funded from the 2020 wastewater bond.
Very good. Any questions of Todd? Director Garcia.
Is this part of our, overall project, part of our administrative, underneath our administrative order
That's correct.
to meet
Yeah, this will be,
that? So,
this will be the first of the big equipment and construction contracts that I'll bring to you.
would there, in going out to bid for the general construction, would there not be any problems with the general contractor in us doing this ahead of time? They would have to order this same type, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And they're submersible, so they're going to build the whole station, and then these slide down guide rails. So when we take delivery of them, we'll probably store them at Adams Street until the contractor's ready to
Ready
take.
for them, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the pump station is scheduled to be completed in November of 2024.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
That completes the consent agenda action items. Now we'll move on to new business.
Thank you, Mayor. Next item is Resolution R23-129, a resolution authorizing the purchase of certain real property at 109 Hobson Avenue, real property ID number 50235, located in Section 4, Township 3 South, Range 19 West in Garland County, Arkansas, and for other purposes. Lance and I will both take this item. I'll lead off. This is something we've worked on for several years. In June of 2019, the City of Hot Springs, along with area nonprofits and community leaders, hosted a poverty summit and discussion on the topic of homelessness. The event was our first time to take a lead role in dealing with the unsheltered and the homeless populations and conducting outreach to our area service providers. The focus of this event was to raise awareness and to begin the process of developing a system-wide approach to creating sustainable solutions for poverty and homelessness in our community. The discussion centered on area homelessness and at-risk populations, including successful programs and best practices, existing efforts, and to facilitate meaningful coordination among individuals and organizations that are striving to address these issues. As a result of the summit, our highly impacting Hope Works job experience program was created, along with a better coordination understanding of provider services and resources. Several areas for improvement were highlighted during these discussions, but the lack of a single centralized facility to offer resources to the at-risk population was a recurring point. The property located at 109 Hobson Avenue, referred to as the Prince of Peace Lutheran Church, has been identified as a good location for a community resource shelter center. The property consists of a church sanctuary with an attached accessory building. The original building was constructed in 1964, and the attached two-story addition was built in 1993 with a total building area of 18,219 square feet. It sits upon 1.35 acres, and approximately 20,000 square feet of asphalt parking lot already exists. The annual U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development point-in-time count is a survey used to count the number of homeless individuals in the Hot Springs area. I won't go through all of that pit count, but I will say that it has trended upward. This particular pit count, the most recent for 2023, shows 140 homeless, unsheltered individuals in our community. The City of Hot Springs is a recipient of federal funding from HUD as an entitlement grantee of the Community Development Block Grant. Some of these funds we are going to propose be used at this facility. Community resource centers and shelters serve two purposes. They provide an immediate impact to the unsheltered population, but these centers help bring together nonprofits and service providers, all working towards a common goal. As listed in the HUD Annual Action Plan, the City of Hot Springs has been working on getting a resource shelter facility fully functional. This facility will provide expanded capacities for temporary sheltering homeless individuals and providing emergency shelter. It is expected that this shelter facility will benefit dozens of homeless individuals in Hot Springs and will be open to all individuals experiencing homelessness. The facility will also house area nonprofits that can provide additional services or resources on top of the shelter functions as a one-stop shop for getting assistance in Hot Springs. A centralized location paired with the existing extensive referral network among SWAP members and Arkansas BOS members will more efficiently serve the area homelessness. The funding for the purchase price of $750,000 will come from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, restricted allocation. As you recall, we have two pots of ARPA. We had a little over 11.3 million. 10 million was unrestricted, but 1.13 was in a restricted, and I say restricted, it was just very limited on what those funds could be used for. This particular project fits that mold, and we're able to use those, what we term as ARPA restricted funds for this purchase. There is additional funding from city CDBG allocation in the amount of $369,840.96 from program year 2021, which was approved by CDAC and this board for this type of facility, and $104,883.92 from program year 2020 has been programmed for a quarantine shelter facility. That's part of our CDBG CV dollars. Costs that may be paid from the CDBG funds include the cost of surveys to identify the property to be acquired, appraisals, the preparation of legal documents, recording fees, and other costs that are necessary to effect the acquisition. Real property does not include movable equipment, furnishings, or operation and maintenance expenses. Any fixtures not considered to be an integral structural fixture is generally an ineligible expense. For example, fire protection equipment is considered for this purpose to be an integral part of the public facility, and thus purchase of such equipment would be eligible. In true transparency to the board, when we had this property appraised, it appraised at $621,000, and we're offering $750,000 for the property. What some of these appraisals don't take in consideration is area, or it does take in consideration some of the areas. We find this area to be a perfect area for this type of a center. It also does not take in consideration the furnishings and some of the other things that are coming as part of that building. We have about $369,000, as I mentioned, from CDBG, and then there's another $300,000 that's still in the CDBG CV portions of that. So what we are proposing is to purchase the building at $750,000. We will need to do some additional work. A fire suppression system is something that Chief Davis and I have been discussing. That will need to be added to the facility. That could be in the neighborhood of $300,000. We're just not sure until they go through that and how much of that we're going to expand in areas where we're going to have a large enough population that would require that. Right now the building is structurally very sound. It has working HVAC systems. However, the HVAC systems are old. We'll probably at some point in time need to replace those, and that could be somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000. So as we move through this, I want the board to understand that the $750,000 is the starting point. We may have close to $500,000 that we'll still need to invest in the structure. I also want to recall the staff has really worked on this since 2019, but it was one of the board's primary goals for us a couple of years ago that has been a long-term effort to get to here. If you'll recall, we've looked at other facilities, thinking that we may be able to refurbish those. An older school that was part of District 1, we looked at that. We looked at building a center in that area from ground up. Those prices were coming in at about $3.5 million. So when we saw this opportunity and worked with the board of the church that was responsible for working with us on this transaction, it just seemed like the perfect fit. I don't want to say godsend, but you know, this has really put it in our house to be able to really have a workable solution. Anecdotally, when you look at homeless, it is happening, and it's happening in every city in the United States. I'm reading articles, it's happening in the UK, it's happening in Finland. It's an issue worldwide. But we know what's happening in our own community, and what we've done in the past isn't working. It's still increasing. So we're hoping to have a facility that we can bring all these great organizations that are already doing things together to do even more at one facility. We're not trying to take any identity away from any other organizations already providing services. We just want to provide a place to where those services can reach more people. It's going to take some time before this becomes, if it ever does become, a permanent overnight shelter. I want to make sure that the board understands that we're going to move through this slowly. We've got great models that are out there working. Russ Bus in Russellville, another location in Fort Smith, Northwest Arkansas. We can learn. Jericho Way in Little Rock. We're going to learn as we go through this process and start putting this program together. But you know, we went out for a bid. We received 2 bids to operate the facility. That was before we had a facility, and what we learned from that experience is it's really a chicken and an egg, and we were trying to go straight to the egg with no chicken, but don't print that in the paper tomorrow. But you know, for us to really be able to put this program together, we have to have a facility to do so. With ARPA funds coming in, it just seemed like a perfect fit and the best opportunity for us to be involved in addressing this particular problem of our unsheltered, underprivileged population. We are not experts in operating a resource center or a shelter, nor do we want to be. But we are willing to work and partner with groups that have that expertise. Initially, we'll be able to have congregate feeding. We've been in discussions with Jackson House to potentially move their feeding program to this location, which will take that off of Malvern Avenue, the Greenway, anywhere that anyone could find a spot to be able to eat, but give them a place indoors to be able to have a meal. It would also serve as a cooling shelter in times like we're experiencing this week. It could serve as that. It could be a warming shelter in the winters. We're so appreciative of First United Methodist for helping us these last few years. And if you've never worked in a warming shelter, I encourage you to do that. It'll warm your heart. It'll make you passionate about the things we're trying to do now. But it'd also be serving as a warming shelter. Mayor, I don't know how much more I can go on, but
I think you're pretty thorough. Was there anything that Mr. Spicer, would like to add?
I think he's sufficiently covered.
All right.
I think the only other information you'll see in your packet, there's an offer and acceptance, obviously, for the purchase of the property, and then a lease back from the church membership for 12 months for them to be able to continue to have services there as they transition. That will not interfere with the work that the city will be doing in the other portions.
I do see some of those faces from the church in the audience today, and I just want to say that they have been extremely helpful to help us work through this process. We appreciate everything that Prince of Peace Lutheran Church has done throughout this process. They will be able to continue to utilize this building. We're only going to be using the 2-story building initially until they find a new home, and so for up to 12 months, they'll be able to continue their worship, continue their programs. They're in the sanctuary and in the annex portion of that building. So it's just been a great partnership all the way around, and we appreciate them.
They promised to show us where the fuse boxes are too, right?
We have
Probably
any
the
questions of directors of Mr. Burrough? Any questions? Director Garcia?
Could you include in the packet if on the lease back, would we still be able to have feedings on Sundays if they still have the services there on Sunday? And I believe there's bus stops in close proximity to there, and I don't know if that information's included. And will we be able to tour this facility?
Certainly.
That sounds good. And I think there are a lot of people here, so I hope they come back when we give them an opportunity to speak in approval of this, because I think all of these are what I see as volunteers and workers for this project.
We appreciate their support as well, and thank you for being here today.
Okay, Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I think what you outlined, and you did do a great job, City Manager Bill, of going over this resolution. We looked at, the restricted funds and, about $750,000 coming out of that to make the initial purchase of this property, with the expectations of close to $500,000 for potential renovations. This is all concerning the actual physical property. Will the packet include any type of cost incurred as a result of operations?
We can come up with that. Initially, we will have some utilities. We'll be splitting those with the church in an ongoing manner. And honestly, as we put this together, whatever startup we have, we'll probably have to have some seed funds for the first couple of years until they're able to get involved, be able to get some grants to help operate the facility. I know there's other organizations that are working on getting additional donations, but I'm thinking from the city, we're probably looking somewhere maybe $100,000 a year for the first couple of years, and hopefully we can get other member groups that I know have been talked to and discussed with to also come in with about $100,000 each. So there will be some operational expenses initially. I know that's something that is difficult for us. This is tangible money that we can use for infrastructure. Operationally, it's going to be difficult for us to continue that funding. But I think the first couple of years, I'd be naive to say we're not going to have any operational funds there to help this group get going.
Thank you for sharing that. I think what can be expected maybe moving forward too is a lot of those grants that are tied into operational costs are a lot of times dependent upon having a facility. So if the facility's present, it might make that opportunity to receive those grants a lot easier to do. Just one other point. And this was one of the 21 items on our ranking list for major unfunded capital project list. And if we were to see this through, this resolution through, could its place on the ranking list be replaced with a senior citizen facility?
Very good question.
And that we could discuss, you know, I guess at our August 5th meeting.
I'll just say that I received one of the rankings today, so I'll be putting that together, getting it out to you. This particular item, should it pass, we'll remove that from the list, or it won't remove it. It'll rank where it ranked, and we'll draw that line through it. There is an effort ongoing with the county, with the city of Hot Springs and the county now, to do something very similar. We have an operator for that facility. CHI St. Vincent's have done a remarkable job over the years in operating the Senior Citizen Center. We've been trying to acquire a facility there as well. We're still in those kind of negotiations. It's not ready to come to the board, but where that ranks in your priority list, I don't really want to say because it wasn't on the rankings. So, but it is something that we're working on, and we'll be bringing back to the board in the future.
Thank you.
All right, any additional questions? Hearing none, we'll continue on with our final action item that will be addressed next Tuesday evening.
Thank you, Mayor. It is the only ordinance on your agenda for the meeting. It's ordinance 2315, an ordinance to grant a franchise to occupy public rights of way and provide telecommunication services by Hyber Fiber of Arkansas LLC and its subsidiary Hyber Fiber of Arkansas LLC, doing business as Hyber Fiber LLC, to set forth the terms and conditions for the use and rental of such rights of way and for other purposes. And I believe our city attorney is going to handle this item.
Thank you, Bill. As the title indicates, there is a new telecommunication provider interested in coming to town, Hyber Fiber of Arkansas LLC, which has obtained their certificate of authority to franchise from the Arkansas Secretary of State's office. This is not just a corporate filing, but a requirement under the Arkansas Video Services Act of 2013, as recently amended by the latest session of the legislature. In order to do so, they must have a franchise agreement in order to operate inside the city rights of way. If this were approved, they would be granted such right in exchange for funds from them to the city of Hot Springs equal to 4.25% of their gross revenues. And in addition to that, additional consideration for this agreement, they will supply us with 4 point-to-point dark fiber lines, which we would be able to use later as their system builds out for the benefit of the city for a public purpose. The term of this franchise will be 10 years with additional 5-year terms of renewal upon consent.
Any questions of the city attorney on this? Director Garcia?
Will our packet include what their telecommunications services definition is?
Yes.
For example, is it just phone service, internet,
Sure.
et cetera?
Yes, it will, and also include a map of their proposed service area. You know, once it's built out, obviously, it'll take some time.
So, and this will be residential and business?
Primarily residential.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Ryan, is this similar structure to what we have with other providers?
It is. It's very similar to what we have with Ritter, although, as Director Garcia has pointed out, Ritter is more in tune to commercial applications. This will be more in tune to residential.
Very good. Thank you.
Mayor, if there's no other questions, this concludes your agenda items for your Wednesday, July 5th
That's right,
meeting.
Wednesday. Thank you. Yeah, and for those of you who, when you depart, check with Monty Ledbetter, because you all should get a certificate for water loss certification. Listening to his, he gave a very thorough explanation of water loss, and so now you will be certified in water loss, at least with this current use of technology that we'll be acquiring. So see him on your way out. So yes, we normally meet on the first and third Tuesdays, but the 4th of July is the first Tuesday. So as we approved, I guess 2 meetings ago, our calendar of meetings for the second half of 2023, that did state that the first meeting in July will be on Wednesday, July 5th, 6 o'clock, right here at City Hall. And we appreciate each and every one of you. It's great to have a full audience during the agenda meeting. That generally doesn't help, but heck, you get your certification in water loss identification. So we'll conclude now and be safe and enjoy the balance of your day. Thank you.